This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? I hope you had a great weekend. Welcome to a big Monday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. A lot to get to coming out of a 4-point weekend for the Winnipeg Jets with home wins at Canada Life Center over the first-place Colorado Avalanche and the St. Louis Blues. Jets back in action tomorrow for St. Paddy's Day before hitting the road as they finish up this 8-game homestand. Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press is going to jump on with us. Then a little later on, we're going to go around the league with some of the top stories in the NHL with Dave Pagnotta of the fourth period. World Cup of Hockey announced earlier today to be taking place in Prague, Calgary, with the semis and the final in Edmonton. GM meetings going on right now, so we'll get to all of that. And then a little bit more on the weekend. And the Jets with Connor Hrabchak a little later on today on the program. We're also going to have to get to the Players' Championship. Epic choke job by Ludwig Oberg, but an amazing Canadian golf story that started right here in Winnipeg. We'll touch on that as well. And of course, dive into everything else surrounding the Winnipeg Jets when Connor joins us, and Jeff as well. Listen, just before we bring in Michael Remis, welcome to everybody with us live on YouTube and chat. Hit that thumbs up button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And a shout out to all you podcast listeners. And a big thanks to all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at CoolBet, the Winnipeg Jets. Don't forget, our final WST game of the month is Saturday, April 11th against the Philadelphia Flyers. We'll wrap the season together up in Section 316. Grab your seats today, winnipegjets.com/WST. Also, our friends at Chud's Power Sports, Uptown Alley, Clean Line, Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, Princess Auto, Manitoba Battery, the St. B Mega Millions Lottery. Don't forget, just a couple days left to get your tickets. Tell you about that a little bit later on. Rolly's Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, as well as Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, and the Manitoba Building Trades and Manitoba Federation of Labor. And, of course, why not question of the day for not Autocorp, but Waverly and McGillivray. Michael Remis, come on in. How's the weekend?
Yeah, very busy weekend for me. The two Jets games, a lot of stuff going on, but fun. 2 wins. You know, we're getting closer, I feel like, to spring every day, although it was minus 20, but I'm in a pretty good mood, Huss. World Cup of Hockey announced. Exciting. World Baseball Classic. Great game last night. Feeling good here.
Yeah, listen, just before we dive into the Jets games, how was the Timbit experience for the little guy? First time on the big ice in front of the crowd. They seem to have a good time on the ice. How was the experience?
It was very hectic, Huss. Had to get to the arena very early, and they said come at 1:30. Well, everyone else showed up, I think, at 1 for the Hoser Night hat giveaway on Saturday. The line was extreme, so we had to wait for the doors to open. We got in. They took us downstairs to a locker room, and, you know, we enjoyed half of the first period, then had to race down, get ready, and, yeah, we saw my son and his team take place in the intermission. It was pretty cool. He did. Here, they showed a highlight on TSN, Huss. I don't know if you saw this one.
I was at the game, so no. I mean, I was in the seats cheering them on.
Yeah, he sent me. I got a lot of nice videos. Connor, it was part of his duty. I said, Connor, you got to take a video of this for me. And so here it is. He's on the blue team in this one, and there's my son right there in the green tape and laces, and taps this one in right in front of the net. So went to the right spot for that one. So he was pretty excited about that. We got a bunch of Timbits after, Tim Hortons hockey cards. So shout out to Tim Hortons for bringing the juice boxes after. It was very cool experience. Then he said after he wants to come back to a Jets game and play during the first intermission. I had to tell him it was like a once in a lifetime thing.
It doesn't happen all the time.
Not everyone gets to do that, Huss. So, and I said, were you nervous playing in front of all those people there? He's like, no, it's just like when you play at the community center. There's a lot of people watching. So
ice in his veins, sniping, getting on TSN. I mean, you gotta love it. It's hilarious that you show that. You told me that he was on the red team.
Yeah.
And was number 4, so I was completely looking at the wrong kid the entire time.
So what happened was, I guess it's the one team and they split them into 2. I didn't know if they were playing another team, but they just had a scrimmage and they put blue jerseys on half the kids, so he wanted to take a blue jersey. So, yeah, my dad was looking for him too in the video. He didn't know either. So, oh well. They got on TSN though. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's always such a great experience for the young ones. And I'll tell you what, I think everyone that went out to the arena on the weekend had a pretty good time. I mean, we'll dive into the games a little bit more. Bottom line is they won them both. Just when you think that's that, and you have 2 kind of duds against Anaheim and the Rangers, it's just so Jets that they would go out and beat the number 1 team in the league in the Colorado Avalanche. I'll tell you what, this is a big weekend for the goaltenders of the Jets. I mean, I think both of those games could have gone either way. I got to tell you, Remo, from the game on Saturday, just so impressed with Connor Hellebuyck in that game. He was absolutely battling for every single puck. And, if it weren't for that beautiful one-timer to Nakash late in the third period that got Colorado on the board, I kind of thought that he might shut the door and give his old buddy Nate McKinnon some more things to think about when he goes to sleep. But pretty good performance. I mean, obviously it was Scheifele and Connor had big weekends. Scoring goals. It was the birthday boy yesterday, Mark Scheifele, with a great play that was kind of like the standout highlight of the game. And then Eric Comrie picked up where Hellebuyck left off, and I thought he had one of his best games of the season, backstopping the Jets to the win against St. Louis.
Man, Connor put these numbers out for Eric Comrie, and we knew Eric Comrie was a solid backup, and it almost wasn't fair to him to put him in the position of a starter with Helio, just how many starts in a row he was playing. Wasn't at the level that we've seen from him in the past, but in his last 5 starts has 5-0-0 record, .946 save percentage, 139 goals against, and 5.47 goal save above expected. And the goaltending performances from Eric Comrie on Sunday, excellent, and Connor Hellebuyck, gave me flashbacks to him stoning McKinnon and Makar in the gold medal game. How could I not be reminded of that? But he was excellent. They were passing around. They had a ton of possession, Colorado. But credit to the Jets for hanging on. And we joked that, yes, of course, losing to the Rangers, who've openly admitted they're not trying to win this season, and then beating the first place Colorado. It's just that type of Jets season, and they are 5 points out of a playoff. Even though they won those 2 games, there's so many teams in front of them, and the number of games left are dwindling. The chances of a playoff spot right now are 6.2%. So it really didn't do a ton, winning those 2 games on the weekend, but nice to see them get rewarded. And I think it was a great weekend of hockey at Canada Life Center. Afternoon games, people bringing out the families. I got to say, that Hoser, the production by the Jets organization for Hoser Night, with all the different music, the intro video, Mach 10, having a special playlist, the hat giveaway, if you were able to get one, the first 5,000 fans, very well done. And, we've been at a couple, nights this year. Has the Halloween game where they had the Dance and Gabe thing. I was at Ukrainian Heritage Night. They do so many of these games where if you're at a Jets game, but it feels like, a bit different production and, graphics and announcements and everything than what you're used to. I say they had the Will Arnett videos in the crowd on Saturday. Very funny. So I thought the Hoser night was well done and a great weekend for 2 Jets wins.
Yeah, totally. And this coming off the country night the previous Saturday where they did the cowboy hat giveaway. Hey, listen, those Saturday night games or Saturday afternoon in this case, always popular. You add in, a cool promo item, change things up a little bit. And, even though the odds are long, the crowd was really into the game. And I think, just having your team beat the number 1 team in the league despite a disappointing season sent a lot of people home happy. As I said, I thought Hrabchak was, I think he was officially the 3rd star of the game. For my money, he was the 1st star. And as you mentioned, Eric Comrie stood up and took the baton from Helly, gave him a night off after about 2 weeks of straight work, and got back in and played very, very well after a long time away. Here's what Scott Arniel had to say about his starting and winning goaltender yesterday afternoon.
That's one thing about, great sort of number 2 goaltenders. And Combs is one of the best that in the sense that every day he's the first guy out there and he stays on late. Guys love, going against him in practice because he plays every puck right out, and just the mindset where you have to, especially following a guy like Kelly, that there could go longer stretches before when between games, and you have to come in with a strong mindset, and he does a really good job of being focused. I think he's obviously become a veteran guy and learned how to handle that role, and he was fantastic tonight.
There is the coach giving some accolades to Eric Comrie, who, obviously had that rough stretch along with the rest of the team at some point, Reem. But, I'm not surprised that there was talk about potential interest in Eric Comrie around the league, as an insurance policy, maybe for some other teams, at the goaltending position, because he, as you just laid out with those numbers that Connor put together, is on a real run of some significantly strong play. And, he, has shown he's very much worthy of the backup gig right now. And, I think that, when you dive into his season overall, obviously he started 11 of 12 in that one period right then earlier in the year, and things weren't going well for the team overall. But, he's been a guy that, has given the Jets some real solid performances. It was a big day for Hayden Fleury, who scored his first as a Jet. Here's what Arnie had to say about Hayden Fleury, who, of course, had that horrible injury a couple months ago, back in the lineup and getting on the scoreboard yesterday.
Yeah, obviously with all the injuries that have happened to him and then the injuries on our defense, we've needed him now that he's come back and gotten healthy. It's great to see that he recovered. We weren't sure how that was all going to play itself out, and to be able to be back playing is great to see. And he's been playing really well. He's a great skater, has great mobility, and he's filled in real well for us. And to see him score there, especially early on like that, is a great shot. Looked like he'd been doing that his whole career.
All right, and I guess what he had a chance to play in front of his little guy Remo, is a 4-year-old. Got to see his dad score for the first time.
I gotta be honest, Huss. I don't really think of, I think of goal droughts in the Winnipeg Jets. I think of, Ron Hainsey had a long one, James Wright. We just went through Gus Nyquist, maybe because he's not exactly a scorer. I never really thought of Hayden Fleury. I think of Hayden Fleury, I think of his epic performance in that Game 7 against St. Louis. But it was a nice jump up into the rush, and we're talking about the Jets getting some secondary scoring. How about Brad Lambert getting in there, Morgan Barron, a couple assists, and that was a nice way to start off the game yesterday. So Hayden Fleury, he had that injury, so it looked rough how he fell into the boards there and broke his nose as well. But nice to see him back in lineup playing well, and scoring in front of his son, which he spoke about after the game.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a minute. You mentioned Brad Lambert. Loved the play that he made to set up Fleury for that goal. And then Mark Scheifele with just an amazing solo effort to score number 31 on the season on his birthday. Apparently he gets a point every time it's his birthday.
We got to mark this down. So Mark Scheifele on his birthday and Kyle Connor scoring on the first game of the season every year. Some weird stuff happens. But yeah, 2 birthdays yesterday for the Jets. Mark Scheifele and Isaac Rasanen as well. Born 10 years apart, though.
Morgan Barron, I thought, was really good as well. We'll hear from the coach on Barron in a minute, but we're seeing a lot of Dylan Sandberg and Elias Salomonsson lately. Scott O'Neill talked a little bit about Dylan Sandberg and what he's done on the pair with the young Swede.
That's the big thing, is that, he's one of the sort of, veteran guys, and, he hasn't been here that long, and now he's playing that, he's the third guy kind of with experience, and he's had to step up his game, and I think he's done a great job. He's playing with Sal and kind of helping mentor Sal along, and, and that's obviously something that, he's done a very good job of, and the two of them have shown chemistry. They're playing against other teams, top 6 forwards, and it's a big role, and Sammy's been, we've seen evolution with him every year he's played. So, he's really fit into not just the playing in the top 4 role. Now we're seeing leadership come from him, and as he's getting older, it's expected, and he's doing a great job with it.
All right, some praise for Dylan Sandberg and his play as of late as well. Now, as far as scoring, I mean, listen, the team hasn't been as dynamic this year. Obviously, the top line's done their fair share of scoring. There has been some issues, throughout the lineup, and scoring off the rush has been, it hasn't been as frequent as maybe it had in the past. They did do some good work off of the rush on the weekend. Here's Arnie on getting those rush chances and making the most.
We're run on fumes. The emotion of that Colorado game yesterday, less, 23 hours between games. It was one of those ones that obviously we could sort of lay, just say, we did a great job yesterday, and not be ready for St. Louis. Tried to emphasize about getting off to a good start. I figured that St. Louis was going to come hard. And that goal by Fleur, and then, the next one, those got us kind of settled into the game, and, not by design on the rush side. Like I said, we're running on fumes, and you could see it at times, and I just thought the guys did a great job of digging in and finding a way, no matter how good, ugly, however it was. We needed the 2 points, and however we got them. A great goaltender helped us as well.
There's already talking about running on fumes. I mean, they did have that great start. They didn't sustain much offense through the game. And part of the reason why Eric Comrie needed to be as good as he was that after that, the Jets only put up 16 shots in the game, which is not usually the blueprint for winning.
Yeah, you look at both of those games, it was a lot of, getting a lead and sitting back, playing defensive. And credit to them, I don't think they gave the Blues or the Avs a ton. It was a lot of keeping him to the outside, but, not a ton of offense generated, as you said, the 16 shots. And I think both teams, the schedule's been busy. They're both playing 3 and 4, playing every second night on average this month. Back-to-back, even though it was at home, you could tell that they've played a lot. So they do have an off day today before wrapping up this 8-game homestand tomorrow against Nashville, and then heading out for a 3-game road trip with another back-to-back on the weekend. A nice morning back-to-back with a noon on Saturday and 11 a.m. Sunday in Pittsburgh and New York Rangers before returning home to. There's not a lot of home games left. I think there's like 5 left on the season. Well, sorry, 6, but 5 after this homestand is over.
Yeah, just back to the defending. They did have really good sticks. We'll grab number 7 here for a minute, and then we'll get back to just the overall picture. But Arnie was asked and talked about the stick work that the Jets used in shutting down their opponents.
Sounds pretty basic, but your stick is the most important thing of your equipment. if you have it on the ice, if it's down and you're not sort of carrying it in the air, by mistake sometimes your stick is in the right spot. But when you can use it to gain 6-7 feet of ice because you have it out in front of you and you're closing on a guy quickly, those are real important things, especially around the net front, especially penalty kill, rebounds, those type of things. When those sticks are down and you're either taking a lane away or you're whacking a rebound away that may be sitting there, and I think you're right. The last couple of games we did a great job with that, and we did a really good job against Tampa with our sticks as well, and that's tracking back. That may be pouring back, and all of a sudden, you keep your stick in the lane, and they try a cross ice pass, and you get it on. I get a piece of it and break it up. So those are real parts of a game or parts of or situations where you guys have to be recognizing all the time that the stick is important. Stick detail is important.
I wanted to single out Morgan Barron. 2 assists yesterday. He has played really, a real strong brand of hockey as of late, Reem. And, we spent quite a bit of time last week talking about, okay, where they can go, what would make sense for the team to kind of try and look at over the course of this final stretch of games over the next month. And a little bit more Morgan Barron, I think, was something that many of us thought they would like to see. And I got to tell you, with another couple assists yesterday, playing with that high motor and creating chances, he's continues to, I think, help the cause or the case for a little bit more Morgan Barron. Here's what Arnie had to say about 36 yesterday.
Everything. The great thing about Morgan, obviously you see him in the middle. I can throw him on the wings. He's been great for us on D-zone draws. He's a guy that obviously can skate. Showing some offense this year a little bit more, and I just think that he recognizes that he has kind of a role to play, and that's kind of to defend first. And he uses his size and his speed to do that, and then from there the offense can come. And he's got a great shot. He's a big, powerful guy that can get the nets. And it was a heck of a pass he made to KC there in the third, which was a huge goal at that moment.
All right, so there's Scott Arniel. Now with the wins on the weekend, the Jets remain 5 points back in the standings of the wild card. And as Remis mentioned, chances are still low, just 6%, because you've got the Nashville Predators a point up on the Jets, the Kings 3 points up on the Jets, the Sharks 4 points up on the Jets, and the Seattle Kraken, who have now rattled off 2 wins in a row, 5 points up on the Winnipeg Jets. But, after 2 very disappointing games on home ice, 4 points on the weekend, this is our final clip from Arnie, who's just looked at his team's overall play since the Olympic break.
We're trying to get ourselves in the playoff spot, and however it goes about, it may be, having a goaltender stand on his head like Combs did tonight, or Helly, was real good yesterday. It was us about those different scenarios you talked about winning games. However it comes about, we have to find a way to get it, stay in games, and that's probably the biggest thing for me is, that's the disappointing thing about the Ranger game and the Anaheim game. We weren't really into the game or the way we needed to be, both emotionally and physically. And I thought those other games you're talking about, we were in them that way, and our compete level was high, and it allowed us to either be ahead in games and continue to win those games, or it was stay in them and come back and and find a way to grab points off those games.
All right, so there's Scott Arniel in a much better mood after the weekend as opposed to Tuesday and Thursday night on home ice. We mentioned Hayden Fleury got on the board for the first time as a Winnipeg Jet and got to do it in front of his son. He talked about that after the game.
Just happy my 4-year-old was here today. It was the first time he's seen me score in person, so I know he's probably more excited than I am, and just excited to see him.
I was going to say, how disappointed would you be if you went home to the kids and they didn't ask you if he scored this time?
He better know today. He's here, he better know.
You're going to give him the puck, of course.
Yeah, for sure. I think I get him a puck during every warm-ups, but might have to switch that one for today.
Say maybe good luck charm having him in here yesterday after the game?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you might have to ask my wife. It's a lot of work for her. The little guy didn't come today, so no. My 4-year-old, he's he's obsessed with hockey. It's mini sticks, it's the Jets, it's everything. I don't really get a break when I go home. I'm either mini stick goalie or one-on-one, so no, it's fun, and to share this with him is really special.
All smiles for Hayden Fleury after yesterday's game, and got the team on the board early on a nice dish from Brad Lambert to get things going. Just to wrap up the reaction from the weekend, let's hear from Eric Comrie, who was one of the stars of yesterday. Here's Comrie on his game yesterday.
Just happy my 4-year-old is here. Just happy my
I mean, I just try and prepare every single day. I mean, it's just try to be my best every single day in practice and just be ready for my name's called upon. It's my job to be ready, my job to give this team a chance to win, and I take a lot of pride in that. I love this team. I want to be the best I can be for this team every single night.
Can you talk about some of the challenges of being that guy who, when you get called upon, you're ready, when there can be such a wait in between those times? Yeah,
it can be tough sometimes because you go a long time without playing. You feel like you get out there and you're like, whew, what are my routines again? What do I do out here? And then you're like, okay, I do this. And all of a sudden, first period happens and you're ready to go. But I think it's a testament to the goalie coach here, Wade Flaherty. I think he's the best in the world at what he does, and he keeps me ready every single day. I don't know. You guys are always late for practice, so you guys don't see what I do every day before, because I don't see you guys in the stands 30 minutes early, and I'm out there with him every single day running goalie drills, and you guys show up about when practice starts. But it's okay. You guys like to sleep in.
Are you saying if we prepared like you, or you prepared like us, you wouldn't be doing very well?
I don't know. Yeah, if I prepared like you, if I slept in like you guys, I might not be doing as well. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Bob, you hear the news?
I can't listen to the news, Daryl.
This is different.
Oh, it's so negative.
Not this time. Manitoba's got these new jobs agreements. And when the government builds things like new schools and hospitals, they'll hire Manitoba workers first.
Really?
Creating good jobs with union standards and more apprenticeships for Manitobans. And we'll get rid of those out-of-province license plates on job sites.
Keeping our money working for Manitobans, eh?
You betcha.
Well, that's how it should work.
I knew you'd like it.
A message from Manitoba's Building Trades and Federation of Labor.
Got a little chilly the last couple days when it is cold. Actually, anytime. If you're looking to go out for a great time, maybe get away from hockey, your sour taste about the Olympics, Uptown Alley, a great spot to do that. No place you'll have more fun than Uptown Alley with your gang, with 5 and 10 pin bowling, laser tag, a state-of-the-art arcade, and amazing food and beverage options. If you're just going out there to have a good time, or you want to plan a group or corporate event, best place for birthday parties for kids, teens, or adults. And of course, if you want to do an event there, you basically just let them know your numbers, what activities you want to do, what you want to eat, any add-ons, and the friendly staff at Uptown will take care of all the rest. Find out more on booking your next event at Uptown Alley at 488-0000, or check them out online at uptownalley.ca. If you've got a move coming up into the spring and summer, holler at the gang over at Rolly's Transfer, a great supporter of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Rolly's is family-owned and operated for over 60 years and the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. If you check out their website at rollys.com, top right corner, you'll click on Request an Estimate. Use that promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to go, and their friendly staff will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment and service that they've been famous for now into their 7th decade. Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in the moving game. Find out more today and plan ahead at rollys.com. And just before we bring in Brandon, got to shout out Dr. Terry and the great people over at St. Vital Dental Center. It's not the most glamorous thing or the thing you're looking most forward to, but I can tell you it's always nice seeing the great people at St. Vital Dental Center. And they've been taking care of generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans for all their dental needs, handling clients from 6 months to 99 plus with the full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to surgeries like dental implants. They do it all. Check them out online at stvitaldental.ca. You can make an appointment online to pop by and see Dr. Terry and his great staff. New spot, 167 St. Anne's Road, convenient free parking right behind the building. Big thanks for the support from the St. Vital Dental Center. All right, it is hammer time. About to bring in Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press. This segment's a presentation of GMC. And Truck Month is on now at GMC. If you want something reliable, rough, and ready for whatever the schedule throws at you, That's the 2026 Sierra 1500 Pro Graphite Crew Cab in a nutshell. And it can be yours for 0% financing for 72 months with a factory 2-inch lift, off-road suspension, and a 5.3-liter V8. This is one ready for anything truck. Don't miss out. Get your local GMC dealer and take advantage of Truck Month before it ends. Hammer, what's going on? How are you? Oh, I think we lost Jeff. His audio. No, we can't hear you now. We had you, and then we didn't have you. Remis, any thoughts on what is happening with the microphone? It was working a moment ago, and now it's not.
Yeah, I don't know. It was working. We literally the second before it was working. It's like I said, computers, like they don't make sense sometimes. So I don't know. I can go to the iPad microphone.
There we go. I can hear some sound in the background.
Right on. Now we're cooking. What? How are you, buddy? What's going on?
I'm doing great, my friend. What a weekend it was for the Winnipeg Jets. I wouldn't say I had a better weekend, but it certainly was fun. I caught the first half of those games. I covered Saturday's game, and Judy Owen was back in the seat on Sunday. But good tidy piece of business for the Winnipeg Jets. And here we are. Huss, the narrative has changed. Where are we right now?
You know, I had a lot of people ask me that yesterday night. And I mean, like, I hate to say it, but it does sort of feel like as much as it's fun, you want your team to go out and play hard and win games, especially in front of the home fans. I mean, after what happened on Tuesday and Thursday, it feels a little too late. I mean, it's just such a Jets thing to play the way they did against Anaheim and come back and lose to the New York Rangers. It was almost like, that they're going to beat Colorado on Saturday, which no one would have had on their card, I think, about a week earlier. But, they got it done. And listen, I thought that as is the case when the Jets are often successful, you're looking at the leaders on the team. And the game on Saturday in particular, I was just so impressed. Connor Hellebuyck battled so hard in that game. Sort of unfortunate he wasn't able to get the shutout. But you need your best players to lead the way he did, and of course, it was a big offensive weekend for both Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was what a performance it was by him. And to your point, Huss, about the shutout and the shame of not getting it and losing it late. This team hasn't shut anyone out this year yet. So, the numbers don't really equate for a guy who's usually in the conversation for the Vezina every year. So it was, unfortunate for the Jets and for Connor Hellebuyck as a whole, but what a great performance he had between the pipes. I'm with you. Obviously, this team, found it, I guess, on a Saturday afternoon when they couldn't muster it on a Tuesday and Thursday night. I think what's got to be most frustrating for fans is kind of want to pick one, right? As you mentioned, half the fan base is hoping for the ethical tank and the higher draft pick, and there's obviously fans out there who want to see this late push, want to see these games mean something, and maybe just maybe punch in their ticket to a playoff spot. But at this point, they haven't really decided what they want. They feel it. They've obviously been performing. They've certainly performed on this. This season high 8-game homestand so far, with just one more game remaining on Tuesday against Nashville. And, to get the results they're getting suggests they do want to, push for the playoffs. But I think the frustrating part for those fans who again, want to see that push towards a playoff berth is then laying an egg against, a team like Anaheim, who's a team that you're fighting with, a team, obviously in the Rangers who you're not fighting with, who you need to be winning, those are just lost points. And when you wake up Monday morning and, you see the Winnipeg Jets 5 points out, wouldn't you feel a heck of a lot better if that was 3? And it would be if the Jets could have figured it out in one of those games.
Yeah, I mean, it is wild. I mean, had they won those 2 games, and again, we could probably do that for about 20 games earlier this season, you're talking about a team that is right there. There is the nature of the things in the mirror appear closer than they are. It's kind of the reverse because, it is 5 points, but there's Nashville, there's LA, there's San Jose, all between the Winnipeg Jets and the Seattle Kraken. And I mean, the numbers this is a 500 team right now. You do 500 for 82 games, you finish with 82 points. That even in a year where the West is off, like the middle of the West is considerably lower, you're still looking at probably needing 91, 92 to get in, which would mean being 10 games over 500 in the in this final run, which equates to what, 13-3.
Yeah, essentially.
But I mean, the bottom line is for the players that are there. I mean, we said this on Friday. Like, if they didn't raise their level of play and be ready for Saturday, I mean, there's a chance of really getting embarrassed. And listen, to their credit, got out, got the job done. Hrabchak led the way. And then they built on that yesterday. And listen, I know Scott Arniel said that this team was kind of running on fumes, and you could see that at times. I mean, they weren't really creating a lot. But, when you get a goal from Fleury early on, a brilliant one, singular effort by Mark Scheifele to go up 2-0, you can sort of once again put it in the hands of your netminder. And like I said in the open, it was sort of like Hrabchak handed the baton to Eric Comrie, who provided another top-notch goaltending performance that turned into 2 points.
Well, and I don't know how you felt. Like, I think they survived a little bit of yesterday's game. I mean, let's be honest here, right? Like, the Blues fed it to them for a majority of that game after the Jets got up on that 2-point lead, which, to their credit, right? They've been, this is a team who has been, at least in the since the calendar flipped to 2026, has been scoring that first goal. In quite a few games, particularly at home. But, again, this is you're not going to have Picassos in every game. You're going to need some luck. When you talk about a record like 13-3, Huss, which is probably the least that they can do in this situation, right? Like, they need to, they probably only have 3 losses left in them before, they're eliminated, and they might even need help from that. I guess the good news with that, Huss, is if you can do it, you're one of the hottest teams going into the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
But to your point, for a team that is, hovering around or at 500 hockey right now, with those, whatever 18, 16, whatever those games remaining are for this club, what's to suggest that they're all of a sudden going to be, a 700, 800, 900 hockey club, right? When it matters the most. Because that's the other part to this, Huss, is like, for some teams, this is everything right now. Jockeying for position. Now, Colorado is in a fight, obviously, for with the Dallas Stars. They do have a pretty healthy lead when it comes to the regulation wins. So it's it's not an easy situation for Dallas. It's not impossible. But even the Avs are feeling like they can, they don't want to be that 2 team because, like everyone's been talking about heading into the playoffs, that Central Division 2 versus 3 match is going to be hell for one of those teams because one of them is obviously not going to get into the second round. So obviously that place matters. But, a lot of these teams that are up there that have kind of finalized their position, they kind of have a little bit of breathing room. They kind of can have off games here or there. When you're playing that style where it's like playoff hockey every night for the rest of the season, if you can actually do this, yes, it would put you in a really good position, I guess, for momentum because you're one of the hottest teams in the league. But man, will you be taxed? And we all know just how difficult it is to win the Stanley Cup, how grueling the playoffs is, to have to play playoff hockey really since the turn of the calendar, and especially in this last month and for the next month. That's a tough ask to get. So we'll see what happens here, but it's probably gonna end up being a lot of back in the conversation. That one hurt. Back in the conversation. That one hurt, until it's ultimately the fate is sealed one way or the next.
Yeah, listen, there was no equation that had them making the playoffs that didn't include a long winning streak without moving backwards the way they did on Tuesday and Thursday. So, I mean, all they can do is keep on going on. I do think, though, that with the wins on the weekend and the fact that certainly within that room, to a man, they're playing meaningful games, is a good situation and scenario to have some of these younger players, being involved in it. Obviously, Rosine still getting his feet wet and getting comfortable with the Jets. I've had a lot of time for Brad Lambert playing with Morgan Barron. I thought that play he made to Hayden Fleury on the opener yesterday shows some added confidence. And I'll tell you what, the Winnipeg Jets as a team and as an organization are going to be well served with the benefits, I think, of this long run of Elias Salmonson playing consistently with Dylan Sandberg going into next season as well.
Yeah, I mean, those are silver linings, right? Because this year was supposed to be the experience of a playoff run, right? Like the feeling at the end of the, at the end of the year, this year was supposed to be, okay, we took that next step. And if you didn't win the Stanley Cup, you continue to be hardened by those playoff runs. So I guess it is a silver lining here that you're able to kind of use this last whatever dozen plus games here to kind of figure out what the future looks like, right? That's obviously got to be, part of this. I agree with your point too about these games mattering for some of the younger guys, the prospects coming up and playing, because, like as much as players, and I'm sure lots do treat every single game like a preparation, right? They're paid handsomely for this. They all take their jobs incredibly serious, but it's just human nature that once you're eliminated from the playoffs, you're probably not going balls to the wall in the same kind of high stakes pressure, process going into each game. And I think while this team continues to fight for a spot and it isn't eliminated and that still is ahead of them potentially, that does kind of create that urgency. And I think it's important to have that to be able to play, again, higher stake games than if the Jets were just kind of playing out the rest of the year. And, and you're also, as I mentioned, like these games are the toughest games. You heard Scott O'Neill talk about outside of the playoffs. It's this X amount of weeks heading into the postseason that are the hardest games that provide the hardest challenge. So, to have to be in it, to have something to play for still, and then to play teams that are also fighting for, whether it's jobs or playing the role of spoiler or pushing in, playoff standings or trying to get into the playoffs or trying to position yourself in the playoffs, you're going to get a lot of motivated high-end opponents here down the stretch to play against. So, speaking to what you just said, whether it's, Salomonsson or whether it's other guys, Brad Lambert or other guys that can come up and, get that opportunity here. Yeah, it's a good environment to come in, or at least a better environment to come into, how the Jets continued to kind of putter out here and nobody was talking about the idea of the playoffs here with whatever amount of games left.
Meanwhile, obviously we'll have a real focus in on some of these young players and, new bodies when they do come up at times before the end of the season. But this is a good time to talk about Mark Scheifele. He was a birthday boy, scored on his birthday as he does every single time. Scheifele now has 82 points in 66 games. He's 5 off his career high, which was set last year with 87 in 82. Very durable player. I mean, touch wood, been able to go. As disappointing as this season has been for the team, how should we look at Scheifele's season overall, which of course has been very, very productive, and also included, the big disappointment for Mark in not being part of that team for the Olympic Games?
Yeah, I mean, even just the Olympic side out of it, like I don't know how that necessarily goes into the equation in this season outside of the fact that it was a big motivating piece for him, right? Like, I mean, obviously that was disappointment, and
I wondered how he'd react to not being on the team, because we knew how important that was going to be to him, and he was very clear and was playing his ass off, and I think by most measures, you could certainly make the argument that he did deserve to be there, and I wasn't sure just where his head might be at, considering what was happening with the team and the disappointment of not getting the call for the country.
For sure, absolutely. And I think, I mean, even just to tie bow on that part, like I think you can make the argument, just kind of rewording what you said, was that like he did everything he possibly could to try to give himself the best position to be on that team. And unfortunately, he found himself on the outside looking in. Now, if you look at his season, though, this year, as you mentioned, right, the Jets are going a certain direction. He's going the opposite direction. So I think you can look at it in a couple different ways, right? Like the consistency is there. Mark Scheifele is one of the most athletically, offensively gifted players in the National Hockey League. He obviously has great chemistry with Kyle Connor. They can play against any defensive pairing in the NHL and be successful. We've seen that now for a few years. It's great that at turning, as you mentioned, him turning 33 years old, that he's continuing to produce at above a point per game clip. That's a massive accomplishment. We all know as you get older on the wrong side of 30, your production eventually slows. There's no better example than Blake Wheeler, right? Blake Wheeler was into his 30s when he was named captain at 31, was reeling off 90-point seasons. And then you hit a certain age and you play a certain style of game. Now, I would argue that Blake Wheeler played a harder style of game than Mark Scheifele, so potentially there's, less wear and tear on that body. But, you hit a certain age in your mid-30s and, what more can you expect? I do think that Mark is defying that Certainly, he puts a lot of work into it. We all know how big of a hockey nerd he is, right? With Adam Oates, and you even referenced Adam Oates the other day, and we went offside on a goal for Kyle Connor, right? Got called back, and it was, he was lamenting that, right? So this guy cares, right? And he is going to do everything in his power, with his hockey smarts, with his nutrition, with his body, to continue on here, right? And be that player that the Winnipeg Jets desperately need from him. With no real number 2 centerman, there's has been a lot of expectation on Mark Scheifele, and I think especially over the last few years, you can look at it and he's not just hit those expectations, has exceeded them. The other side of that conversation now, Huss, is the evolution of Mark Scheifele's game. We all know that he's attached to the hip of Kyle Connor, right? Like, Kyle Connor is a very gifted offensive player. And so I think some of the questions out of this season, and certainly some of the frustration out of fans, is what is Mark Scheifele without Kyle Connor? Right? Can Mark Scheifele next season carry a line? At 33 years old, can he carry his own line? Can he make his wingers better? Or is he a guy who you're going to get the most out of Kyle Connor with, because the chemistry and the smarts between those guys is so locked in that's there's no point in changing it? Because to me, points is one thing. What you're asked to do, and this has been a conversation we've talked about with Scheifele all season long when I've been on, right? Like, it's one thing to ask a player to be a point per game player and to execute, be relied on heavily to be the offensive guy on a team. And this isn't a but. That is a very difficult ask. And there's lots of players around the league that get asked, and like Mark Scheifele, succeed in that. But there's also centermen out there, the best centermen in the league, a la Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, other players, right, where they're asked to do that and carry their own line in a lot of ways. Now, I know there's some people are going to argue, well, look at McDavid. He's played with Draisaitl before. He's played with other good line mates. Yeah, sure. I'm not saying that the guys he's playing with are fourth liners, that he's turned into first liners. But we know that Mark has been attached to the hip of Kyle Connor in all this time, and there's no doubt that they're successful together. But what is so blatantly obvious with this team, and it's less about Mark Scheifele's season and more about the Winnipeg Jets season, is that whether, and it's probably unfair to put this all on Mark Scheifele, because, as I said, they don't have a number 2 centerman, but they need a guy like Mark Scheifele to carry a line, right? And to ask and do that and also be a point per game player, that is a really, really hard thing to do. So as impressive as it is, and the ability that Mark has and shown to be an offensively gifted guy in this, in this league, that's the next step to his game. And I don't know if that tool's in his tool belt at 33 years old. I don't know if you can ask a guy to do that now. And so it puts even more pressure, and it should be put pressure on Kevin Cheveldayoff in this management group to bring in support and help around, because you can't be asking for Mark Scheifele to hit career highs every year and be the guy who's depended on. When you looked at that stat I saw on TSN, Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, Gabe Vilardi represent about 54% of the Jets' goals this season. Like, that's a lot. They're doing a lot. I don't know if you can ask them to do more. And if you can't ask them to do more, then you got to find the pieces around them.
Well, and that certainly is, at the top of Kevin Cheveldayoff's list going into the off season. You look, Connor with his 31st on the weekend as well. 31 goals, 25 goals for Gabriel Vilardi, who's having a heck of a season himself. There are only 3 other double-digit scorers on the team. One of them is Josh Morrissey. The other is Alex Iafallo, who has at times been on that line when they've moved Gabriel Vilardi off of it. And the only other guy that's been doing it, and I think, people are talking more and more about this player, is Morgan Barron. And Morgan Barron's been, in a bottom 6, often fourth line role. 10 goals on the season so far for Barron. He had 2 assists yesterday. I had a good conversation with Sean Reynolds last week, Jeff, about, just what can the Jets get out of these final, at the time, whatever it was, 18 games. We know how important it is to figure out, the center ice position moving forward. And, we talked that I think at times it would be nice in these final 15-odd games or whatever to get a little bit of Morgan Barron. I think maybe to give him a chance playing with a few more offensive players to see whether, that level that he's provided in a lesser role might be there. You might be able to open up a little bit more, based on who he's playing with and a little bit more offensive opportunity.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Huss, and I think a lot of people are in that camp. And while I don't have the exact reason for why he hasn't even been able to jump to the third line on most nights, I think that he's bringing something to that fourth line that I think Scott Arniel is worried if it leaves, then it's going to extinguish that. And I'm not saying that you should necessarily be thinking that way and you know, whatever, but if you're getting something from your fourth line and it's from him, maybe that is the reason why, or your third line, right? Like something else to, you know, something. But to me, I'm with you. Like, I don't understand why he hasn't earned that opportunity to jump up in the top six and be a regular kind of presence there, because, you know, look at what Scott Arniel said after last game. Like, when they asked what Morgan Barron is giving this team, and his answer is everything. So if that's your answer about a player in a season where clearly you have not been getting everything from everybody, how is it that that guy is not getting more opportunity? He certainly deserves it. It's so funny because, like, you look at some of the plays Morgan Barron's done. Like, I made this tweet out a while ago. Remember that play where he, like, just kind of wheeled around his own zone and found himself on a breakaway when he gave, like, the two defenders, I don't even remember what game it was now, the two defenders sitting there. I think it was the Rangers game. But anyway, you know, beats them, and it's just like that incredible amount of speed. Like, he has this skill set that you see throughout the game. Now, if there's one knock against Morgan Barron, it's just like, I don't know if you've ever seen the guy get mad, right? Like, you kind of want to, you know, whatever. So I have this belief that you kind of have to have some nasty in you as a player. And I'm not saying that that's like, you know, not saying he doesn't have that, or, you know, whatever, that's what's preventing him from going further up the lineup here. But I do think that, you know, he's smart. He's got good hands. He's hard on the forecheck. He's fast. I wonder if the difference here is his style of game, right? Like, we haven't really seen him with the top six, so we don't know one way or the other. But, like, I don't know how a fast guy who's hard on the forecheck, who doesn't need the puck, is a guy that you couldn't put on a line with the top six guys that we know today. So I think this Morgan Barron, you know, and it's weird, right? You know, at the end of the season, what you thought you'd be talking about with this organization, you know, and now it being Morgan Barron and why he's not getting the amount of time, it just seems like an obvious one for the Jets to reward a guy he's not an offensive guru by any stretch of the imagination, but he has some finish to him, and you'd like to wonder if his stats wouldn't be a lot better if he was playing with some players who are known to put the puck in the net rather than guys who are known to keep it out.
I mean, at this point, I just love to see it. I think that there's some benefits to it, and you know, if it doesn't work, I mean, as I say, if you can't try that stuff now, when are you going to do it? And the center ice position is not a conversation that's going to be going anywhere soon. I mean, if you really look at kind of where things sort of fell apart this year, obviously Jonathan Toews came in with high hopes. It just hasn't clicked. He's got 7 goals and 21 points. And to me, I mean, I think that Adam Lowry's status, you know, in having a tough time get back to the level that we're used to seeing from Adam Lowry after that hip surgery, you know, has put the team in a pretty precarious situation where they have really been relying on the Scheifele line for so much of the offense. And I mean, I think it's imperative that they figure out, is there more they can get out of some of the other players that project to be with the team next year? And to me, Lambert would be at the top of that list. While we're talking about the center ice position, and how do you see things going with Jonathan Toews? Do you think he plays again next year? Does he come back here? Is there a spot for him next year on this team with them based on, you know, how things went so far this season?
Oh man, it's a great question because, you know, I have no idea. You know, admittedly, I haven't had a lot of conversations with Jonathan Toews this year or any one-on-one, so I don't know what's in his mind or in his brain. I mean, you look at, you know, obviously this year was a really interesting one for him, having taken those, you know, 2 years off. I say taken off, use that lightly, right? This was his way of working his way back to where he is today, right? Which took a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of different things trying. Like we all know, you know, his journey to even feel good enough to get back onto the ice. You look at some of his play this year, right? I mean, obviously there was high expectations on him early. People thought he was going to be that second line centerman. It was even joked about playing fourth line. So maybe there was a little bit of added pressure on him. I don't think, I'm not going to speak for him. I don't think I think every player feels pressure, right? If you're Jonathan Toews, I think you're not human if you don't feel pressure, especially given the career that you have. But I just don't think that he was putting pressure on him that he needed to be the driving force of the Winnipeg Jets, right? Like, I think for him, the victory was getting back on the ice and then trusting the process and trusting the work and then hoping that it turns, right? And we saw some glimpses. Now we didn't really ever see the glimpses of, the trademark Toews and the shutdown mode and, his ability, to find players or whatever. But we've seen some of that smarts, right? He's made some great passes. He's made some great plays. He's set guys up. I think if he had, in some cases, better wingers, he might have some better points. You could make the argument, just to be clear, that if, those wingers had a better centerman, they could argue they had more points. Anyways, my point being is that you saw flashes of Toews that showed you or suggested, like, okay, maybe there's something in there. But, you also saw things throughout the year, Huss, and I think this is more of a comfort thing for him. Like, you notice he's not really getting the same kind of respect he used to get, right? Like, there's younger guys in the thing, like you see him mucking it up. You almost kind of see like I'm not saying that like a fish out of water, but you don't see him being all that comfortable or exuding that confidence. So like, I'm very curious because I think for him, he's never spent a single interview, I think, giving his full evaluation of where he's at, because I think he's wanted to take the year and see how he feels after a full NHL season. And I don't think he wanted to be asked every 2 weeks how he's feeling or where he feels he's at. But he's, I imagine he'll take stock of this season, see where things work, where it didn't. Again, this is such a unique return to hockey that maybe it requires more than a full season to get back. And maybe he needs this off season after putting a full, because there's also the recovery element to this, right? Hutz, it's not just trying to become a better hockey player. The guy's getting close to 40 years old and it's about recovery. So like the harder work you work, the harder it is to recover. So it'll be really interesting to see what his take is at the end of this season to really he's going to really think about this year and really, do really see if he can do it anymore. Because I think with people who have that fighting spirit, they know when they're done. And I think this gives Jonathan Toews way more information and insight into his decision than what he had leading into last season, right? Last season, again, it was about getting into this year and getting on the ice. That was the victory. Now he's had a full year. It's going to be whether or not he can do it, whether his body can do it. I think he's got more answers to some of those questions after a full year, and it'll be really interesting. As for whether or not he'll be on team with the Jets, clearly not my decision here. But when you look at this team, when you look at what Jonathan Toews could be in this league based on what we've seen this season, we're probably looking at a fourth line centerman, right? A guy who will be brought in for faceoffs, almost like a specialist. And I just don't know if the Winnipeg Jets, as great a story as it was to bring Jonathan Toews back to his hometown team to get his second chance, I just don't know with what they want to do if it is the perfect fit. But again, maybe it works for them and we do see him. Maybe he's comfortable here. Maybe this is the team he wants to be. And if there's a relationship or a possibility there and it works for both sides, I could see it working. We know how loyal this team is and we know how excited this organization was to sign Jonathan Toews in the first place.
One more game on the homestand. It's the St. Paddy's Day game tomorrow against the Nashville Predators, who were just 1 point up on the Winnipeg Jets. And then Wednesday, Hammer, back at it with Cool Bet Poker. We'll look forward to getting bounty on your head, my head, Remis's head on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. So we'll look forward to seeing you then. Great chat as always, Ben. Have a great rest of the day.
Yeah, you guys too. Always fun being on. Looking forward to poker later this week, and we'll see what the Jets can do. It's going to be, who knows, man. 1 week is going to completely change the entire conversation we've already seen it the last couple of weeks. So
no doubt about it. Take care. There's Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press. Dave Pagnotta's coming up. We're going to talk World Cup of Hockey and followed from the Matthews Gudis incident last week and more heading around the league. But hey, folks, you got 3 days and 10 hours. Thursday night at midnight is the deadline to get your tickets for the St. Boniface Hospital Mega Million Choices Lottery. Don't wait. Don't miss the deadline. Go to stbmegamillionchoices.ca and count yourself in support of the St. Boniface Hospital Foundation and all the incredibly important research done at the St. B, and give your chance to win one of 5 dream home packages worth $1.5 million or the cash prize option of $1.25 million tax-free. And again, it's all in support of the St. B Hospital. Now, there are a couple of other ways to win. Make sure to check out the 50-50 plus and the Big Score Plus options when you go to the website. The 50-50 draw is now over $1.2 million. So the winner will be taking home more than $600,000 in cash. There's also some other draws with the Big Score Plus. Now, you get your tickets for the Big Score Plus, and as opposed to one winner, there's 60 $1,000 winners and 10 $12,000 cash winners as well. So when you go to the site, stbmegamillionchoices.ca, count yourself in for the grand prize draw and make sure to check out the 50-50 and Big Score Plus options. And of course, it is all in support of the St. Boniface Hospital. stbmegamillionchoices.ca. And of course, if you'd like to get your tickets in person, pop by your local London Drugs or Red River Co-op location. Dave Pagnotta coming up next after a quick time out here on WST. I do want to thank our friends at Princess Auto for their wonderful support of WST. Won't be too long before we're back at Princess Auto Stadium cheering on the Bombers. In the meantime, Princess Auto serving Canadians coast to coast with the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new waiting for you at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, out in Brandon, or you can shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. The snowmobile season continues to be an amazing one. A little more snow last night, and a lot of people will be hitting the trails on the weekend. Our pals at Chud's Power Sports are dominating the snowmobile season. And right now, they have just started the Polaris 2027 Snow Check program up at Chud's in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231. It's for pre-ordering the new snowmobile models for next year. If you pre-order, you get the best deal of the year on the new models, plus an extra 2-year warranty for a total of 3 years. Instead of just the normal 1 year, $250 in free accessories, and the golden ticket, which will give them $1,000 off the 2028 Snow Check if they want to trade up to 27. It runs now until March 13th. The header is running on the website at chudspowersports.com. So get on over to that, and while you're at it, you can start thinking about spring with bikes and ATVs and RVs, because Chud's has it all. The Power Sports Superstore in Manitoba for over 80 years. Got to thank Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery. Continue to get just always getting great comments from our listeners and customers that have found Manitoba Battery through WST. Shopping local, beating the pants off the big box stores and really anywhere else you're going to get batteries. And of course, the best in service. They'll put it in for you. They'll give you a free battery test if you're wondering if you need a new one. And right now, you want to get through this winter for car and truck batteries, but as we get into boats and ATVs and, of course, sleds, Manitoba Battery has it all. 2 Winnipeg locations, Logan Avenue, Dovercourt Drive out on the south side, and, of course, you can also order online. They do deliver anywhere inside the perimeter of the city of Winnipeg. You can order online today at manitobabattery.com. All right, time to bring in our pal Dave Pagnotta. Lots going on in and around the National Hockey League. But hey, if you're looking to dominate off the ice as much as your team does on it, check out the Toyota Tacoma. Its standard I-Force engine boasts an impressive towing capacity of up to 6,400 pounds. In fact, it's the most powerful Tacoma ever. So whether you're hauling gear to the rink or heading to an away game, you can tackle it with ease. The available panoramic multi-terrain view monitor gives you a live underfloor view to navigate even the toughest terrain with ease. And when it's time to load up, the available power liftgate makes loading in your gear in and out a cinch. Experience power, capability, and convenience with the Toyota Tacoma. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Prairie Toyota dealer during Red Tag Days from March through May. Dave, what's going on? How are you?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. Just in New York, tail end of this trip. I followed the Kings out here. Games on Friday against the Islanders. They won. They lost to the Devils in Jersey on Saturday, and they got the Rangers at MSG tonight. So I'm looking forward to that one. Kopitar now becomes or has become the Kings' all-time franchise leader in points. So that was fun to watch on Saturday. He was hoping for a W. Well, it happened, didn't. So let's see how he comes out tonight.
You know, you mentioned, the Kings, it's sort of been a weird season for them. They had the late season coaching change. And, since then, it's sort of been one win, one loss, one win. Like so many of the other teams in this battle, if you want to call it, for that second wild card in the West. No one's really making a big run. Utah sort of separated themselves in the first wild card spot, and then you got a whole bunch of teams that, like the Winnipeg Jets, are sort of Jekyll and Hyde. A couple really bad performances, then you go and beat the top team in the league. But LA in particular has been, you tell us, how have things been since the coaching change, and are they getting closer to kind of barging really into that conversation for wild card too?
Yeah, I think they are, because the mood has shifted quite significantly since DJ Smith moved up to interim head coach, and also that to have Matt Green on the blue line, or excuse me, on the bench working the blue line and the defenseman. That's been pretty solid for them so far. And again, the mood has changed. They seem to be a little bit lighter on their feet instead of so gripped up and tight. And, typically coaching change happens, that you do see an upswing in performance. And for LA, it seems to be working, but they kind of got the game kind of got away from them early on Saturday. It was, 2-0 after the first period for the Devils. And then they stormed back, LA did in that third period, and just dominated to take a 3-2 lead. And then Devils came back, they kept letting them in it, and so on. And then right at the end, they weren't able to close it off, and the Devils took the lead and then potted in the empty net. Too little, too late for LA, but they've been a lot steadier. And then, again, just the mood seems to have changed in that room for the better. And that might be to their advantage going down this stretch, because you're right, this has been flip-flopping, win-loss, 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 and they haven't been able to piece together sustainability and consistency in the W column. They want to build off of that, and I think they're going to come flying here tonight against the Rangers. And this is also Artemi Panarin's first game back at MSG.
Oh, of course. And the Rangers have just been horrible on home ice this year. So this is a spot I would love to see the Kings get in the playoffs. I think it'd just be a shame if Kopitar's Hall of Fame career ended up in game 82 and not with one more chance for the playoffs. Let's get to the big story today. Details on the World Cup of Hockey. They had 28 cities bidding to be a part of it. And we got a double shot of Alberta, round robin in Calgary, finals in Edmonton, and also Prague. Fill us in on what we know and how this is going to work, Dave.
Yeah, so there were 10 European cities that were in the mix that bid for the opportunity to host this, and there were 18 on the North American side. And the way this is going to work is the preliminary round, the round robin, will take place in Calgary and Prague. They'll have 6 round robin games in each city, and then almost like a quarterfinal to a certain degree as well in each of those cities. And then the semifinal and the final will take place in Edmonton. So 8 countries as well. So we'll have 4 in one city, 4 in the other, and then the final 4 will meet. We'll meet in Edmonton. But 8 countries, as I said, 17 games total. They're going to take about 17 days off of the NHL schedule in February. 13 games altogether for the tournament, and everybody's really looking forward to it. This is. They haven't confirmed, I should add, they haven't confirmed which countries are participating. They want to wait on that. You presume that Canada, US, Finland, Sweden from Four Nations will be part of it, that Czechia will be part of it, considering Prague is hosting, and then you've got 3 open slots effectively. They still have to determine how they're going to go through that qualifying process to see teams like Germany or Switzerland or, Slovakia, Norway, et cetera, compete to be part of this. And based on how this goes, 2032 World Cup is likely to be 12 teams. So the format will change at that point as well a little bit. Speaking of format, semifinal and final, OT process, normal like NHL playoffs, full 20 minutes, 5-on-5, sudden death. So none of the 3-on-3 or no shootout or anything like that in the semis and in the final.
That is, I think everyone's on board with that. I mean, I know it's kind of sounded like sour grapes from some people north of the border, just based on having 3-on-3 overtime decided. But that's the way the Olympics works. The beauty of this is if the NHL and the NHLPA want to do something, they can do it. This is their show, and we'll actually be able to watch highlights of the event afterwards. I mean, it won't just be lost for another 4 years when it happens. And I imagine from a business side of things, this is going to be big for the NHL because obviously there's a real cost to it. I mean, you risk injury for your players. You're taking 2.5 weeks off in the middle of the season. There's a lot that needs to be done to make this happen, Dave, but it's very clear. And this was bright as day from the drop of the puck at the Four Nations last year that more best on best international competition is great for the product, great for the game, and thus good for the NHL.
It's great. Yeah, it is. And we now have a clear schedule, presuming nothing changes, moving forward. So we'll have international tournament, All-Star weekend, international tournament, All-Star weekend. So Olympics, All-Star, World Cup, All-Star, Olympics, All-Star, et cetera. So we kind of have that. Now, we'll see what the All-Star format next season will be and how they're going to keep it entertaining. It is on Long Island. The Islanders are hosting the 27 All-Star weekend festivities, but they want to have it hyped. They want something big tied to it. Now, the last All-Star game that took place in Toronto in a couple of years ago, that was awesome. That was a great weekend. The weather was great, so that factored in too. But it was entertaining. They had festivities tied around the city, celebrities in town that weren't even invited by the NHL. Just celebs came to Toronto to be part of it. They performed all over the city, different DJs and musicians and stuff like that. That's what they want to have for All-Star Weekend moving forward. And I imagine that's what they're going to try to do and replicate as best they can in New York next summer. But that's exciting. Certainly World Cup is, and echoing what you said, this is the NHL and NHLPA's show, so they can do what they want for this. They also have to finalize a TV broadcast partner, all of them, because they don't have any yet for this. Sportsnet in Canada, Amazon Prime Canada, ESPN in the US, it didn't include the future World Cups, including this one. So they're going to have to finalize that as well.
11 billion just doesn't get what it used to on the market. Hey, it's an add-on for the World Cup games. We'll see that. I would imagine just for the format, based on what we've seen before, we'd have to assume that both the United States and Canada would be in the North American pool playing in Calgary, which would mean, I imagine, Dave, that we will be guaranteed a USA-Canada matchup and then potentially a second matchup if they both end up going to the final.
Yeah, it's certainly a possibility. And I'm curious if they separate them because, for the possibility to link up in the final, because things are going through the divisional process. But, economically for Edmonton and Calgary, I would imagine that they would want the U.S. in there so they can have an inflow of that from a tourist side of things. But these things are going to travel pretty nicely. There'll be minimum of two European countries participating in each of the divisions, and we'll see, how they format that. Again, they haven't finalized that. That's going to be down the road, as well as the official 8 countries that are participating. But as I said, I all indications: Canada, U.S., Sweden, Finland, Czechia, and then we'll see kind of where it goes. Now, I would imagine Germany as well, based on last week's announcement from the NHL that they're going to Dusseldorf in December Ottawa is playing Chicago for the Global Series, but it's not a one-off. It's an expanded relationship and growth pattern that they have for Germany. There will be more Global Series games in future years. One's most likely in Berlin and probably Munich and wherever else. But that looks to be part of their plan in Germany. I would imagine that they would be part of World Cup as well.
Dave Pagnotta, the fourth period with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. GMs are meeting down in Florida. What do we know much about what's on the agenda, Dave? I mean, what's going on this week when all the tall foreheads of NHL front offices get together?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything pressing with respect to changing anything. I think this is a status quo type of meeting. Here's how things are going. They're going to discuss cap rise and the projections moving forward. We know that the initial projections already 104 next season, 113.5 the year before. They could go up a little bit. They could even go down, but it doesn't look like that's the case. And then around 123, 124 in 3 years. So that'll be on the agenda to kind of update everybody on these projections, but also at some point, some teams are going to want to say, okay, where do we start capping this? Like, how do we, go from, $9 million, $10 million increase every year? How do we drop that to be a little bit more sustainable moving forward? A bit of a counter argument to that is you don't have to spend to the cap, and we're going to start to see teams internalizing their own caps moving forward. But right now it just goes to show the overall success of the league and just how healthy it really is, especially financially. And that's even without expansion talk, which I don't think will be on any of the agendas for this week at the GM meetings, but I'm sure there'll be some aside conversations where we are with that. But the finances of the league will certainly be brought up. I'm sure there's going to be a discussion with respect to player safety and just where things are at on that end.
You don't say.
As well, yeah. And what the update is there, if any update, because the league still likes their Department of Player Safety process. But I'm sure that's going to be part of the discussion board this week.
I know people in TO are livid about the penalty to Radko Gudas, and to be honest, I get it. I know you've talked to a lot of people around, the league on a daily basis. I mean, what are you hearing about the reaction out of the Toronto market? I mean, people with no skin in the game about the 5-gamer for Radko Gudas, considering what we saw on the ice.
Yeah, I thought it would have been more, but the consensus that I've gotten is not so much people surprised at 5 games. I can accept after they went through the process and did their interview. If they went to 5 games, I could accept that. What a lot of people have a problem with is that they didn't open it up to offer an in-person to potentially get more than 5. They've capped themselves at that point. And the player can elect to not have the in-person and just do it over Zoom anyway, but it still gives the league the opportunity to suspend beyond 5 games. And I think a lot of people, including players, current and former, that I've spoken to, were surprised that they didn't give that wasn't part of the mix, that it wasn't offered an in-person for that ability to go 6, 8, 9, 10 games, whatever it could have been. And that seems, again, to be the consensus. It's not the problem with the 5-game itself. It's just you already capped yourself off right away before even talking to him to get his side of what he saw or why he acted the way he did. So I think that was a bit of a surprise and a lot of disappointment there. And you can be sure just in that Leafs room, everybody was pretty ticked off with how they didn't handle the situation and how crappy that they basically just BS their way into post-game interviews, saying, I didn't see it, I wasn't sure. Your captain's down on the ice holding his knee and the linesman's holding a player. You pretty much put 2 and 2 together that something happened there. Go after him.
Well, and we'll get to that in a minute, because I do want to talk about just how much edge some of these recent games we've had in the National Hockey League and the response of the Leafs after that. I will say this about Radko Gudas. I mean, he's a menace to society. He has always been that way when he's played. I don't understand, and maybe this is just something I personally disagree with, that you can have him treated like a non-repeat offender with the rap sheet that guy has. I mean, people in Winnipeg in particular remember him attempting to decapitate Matthew Perreault with his stick. He got a 10-game suspension for that. Like, at a certain point, when you're getting double-digit games, I'm not sure that sort of an offense should be wiped clean because you go for a couple seasons without doing anything egregiously stupid.
Yeah, and it more applies to the dollar values kind of tied to these suspensions more than anything with respect to repeat offenders. But the league they take that into account as well. Like if there's a 10-year gap in between suspensions, different story. But you're talking a few years and you're doing some, certain dirty-esque type of plays, season after season, even if you're not getting suspended, the league does take that into consideration as well. Again, I don't have necessarily with it being laid out at 5 games because, his knee didn't move. He didn't move his knee forward to really go out. Like he didn't lean into it, but he also didn't take it away. He didn't ease up. He just left it there. And he knew exactly what he was doing. But if the league figured that was the case and they still determined 5 games because it wasn't an overly obvious lean in or attempt to hurt the guy, then I can accept that. But again, not being able to go beyond 5 before even having the hearing didn't make sense to me and didn't make sense to a lot of people.
Dave, I mean, the big story that night obviously was the injury to Auston Matthews, but the response or lack thereof from the Leafs sort of took on a life of its own. And it's kind of funny. I mean, now all of a sudden they're this tough team that's getting in a scrum after every whistle since that happened. But, I mean, I know you've talked to a lot of people. This has been the topic for the last kind of 4 days or so coming out of it. Where, by the way, and I'll just mention, I'm not sure if you've heard this, but I was catching some of Elliot Friedman this morning on 32 Thoughts, and he said Brad Treliving was on the road scouting and was so livid that he reportedly phoned some of the players that were on the ice. I don't know what those conversations were like, but I remember last year around this same time when Tage Thompson got headhunted and nobody did anything on Buffalo, and it felt like that was rock bottom for that team, and they have been building up ever since then. Same thing with the Leafs, sort of rock bottom for a team and organization last week based on what happened to their star player, but also what did and didn't happen when that happened.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is a bad look. It was a crappy look for Buffalo when it happened to Thompson, and he was pissed off about it afterwards. We haven't really heard much out of Auston because, banged up. So we haven't had that opportunity. But it was very, very, very embarrassing. It was a horribly embarrassing look for the guys on the ice and for that organization overall. Not good. And I can imagine Austin's not too happy with the lack of response. We'll see how this plays out. But, Morgan Riley, nothing. William Nylander, nothing. And look, I get it. Especially Nylander. Like, he's not a fighter, right? He's a skilled guy. He'll throw a glove in a face and that'll be it. But he didn't even do that. And you don't have to go out there and I'm not advocating for injury because I don't want anybody to get hurt. But you got to at least show up for your captain. And it doesn't even have to be it should be any player in that situation on your team. If he's your teammate, you should have the ability to go out there. You should go out there and stand up for your guy, even if you're just faking it. Even if you're just going to hold the guy's jersey and just move him around a little bit, at least you showed that you cared and that, something was there. Fake it, whatever.
The worst part about the Nylander thing was that he was asked about it after the game and said he didn't see it. And then you watch the thing and he's got the hands up selling to the referee. Like, I kind of wonder, like, it's strange because the guy is a superstar and they need him. But that's the sort of thing, like, you carry that around for a while and you wonder what the relationship is, with some of the other guys in that room. I mean, we heard that it was a very loud intermission, both from Craig Berube and some of the other players. I do wonder if that kind of changes the way the organization looks at, because the bottom line is, Dave, right now, we're talking about a team that you could almost say like everything is on the table for the Toronto Maple Leafs. We've had a real disappointing season here in Winnipeg, and we're talking about off-season changes. The conversations around the Leafs right now are stunning when you think about where they were coming into game number 1 in October.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're going to have a ton of discussions about how this team is going to look next season. And, they had conversations with at least one team the week of the deadline involving Morgan Riley. Teams reached out about Matthew Knies and they listened, as it's been well documented now. They talked about other players too. I think almost everything is going to be on the table for the Toronto Maple Leafs this summer. Their goal is to still try to make the playoffs next year and get back on track. They see teams like Pittsburgh and Boston and Detroit, how they've been able to kind of flip the script and get back on track after a year. They feel that they're capable of doing that, but what pieces are going to be used to do that, we're going to wait and see. It's going to be a very interesting decision process. It's going to be a very interesting summer in Toronto, and the decision process is going to be front and center. I haven't heard, I've said this before, I haven't heard any loud noise around Treliving's future next season. We've heard a lot of it with respect to the coaching staff, how there might be a change there. But I haven't heard anything definitive with respect to that same level of noise on the GM side. And for him to run the trade deadline, and then go into the offseason with after doing that, you got to imagine that he's going to be back, and the leash will be considerably shorter, but it'll be back. So, with everything gone on, if they do pivot and then make a change at the GM post and the coaching side, it wouldn't surprise anybody with how things have gone and played out, especially after this whole Matthews injury debacle. At the same time, the Leafs also have something to consider right now. You don't have your captain. You're near the bottom of the East. Other guys are still banged up. You start shutting other guys down and giving some of those younger kids an opportunity to play because you want to see what they've got and see if you do drop. Nobody wants to lose. But if you do drop and somehow get your top 5 pick back, because it is top 5 goes to Boston. If they fall into the top 5, they keep it. Now, it'd be very Toronto if they finish 5th last and then the lottery doesn't go their way and they get pushed back a pick. And then that 6 overall goes to Boston anyway. But if you're Toronto, you do have to seriously consider, look, Matthews is done for the season. Our season is done. Do we shut down Knies? Do we shut down Nylander? Do we shut down, Carlo, guys that are dealing with ongoing injuries or ailments? They have to figure that out too.
Well, and the funny thing is, you come out of that Ducks game, they won that game.
Yeah.
Get a point in Buffalo and then go in and beat the Wild. So, much like Winnipeg, a lot of people, finished up after those 2 duds on home ice against the Ducks and Rangers. And then, of course, beat Colorado, beat St. Louis at home, and just stay right in seemingly, charging distance. But I think we've kind of we've run the numbers, and with all those other teams, it is a long, long spot. Just what are the chances that Matthews is a Maple Leaf next October?
Well, we know they're going to have a conversation with Auston in the summer about the direction of the team and where he fits and what he feels. I think it's still premature to suggest that they're going to move him now, but based on what happened and all the noise around Toronto in the last couple of months anyway, it wouldn't shock anybody if it happens this offseason, but it would probably be surprising to many, myself included, if it does go in that direction. But we won't know anything until they have those discussions and have those meetings.
Yeah, it very, very interesting offseason for a number of the Canadian teams.
Oh, yeah.
Dave, can't get enough of the Sabres. That game against Tampa was just so crazy. We're still talking about it a week or two later. I think the rematch is on April 6th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Yeah,
I know you get around. Will you be in attendance for the rematch in Buffalo between those two teams?
I want to, yes. If I can pull it off, I might be in LA that week, so I'm trying to see if I can do Buffalo and then head down to LA to be part of it, and we'll see. It might even be a playoff matchup. That could even be a round 1 or round 2 playoff matchup between the Sabres and the Lightning, and that would be even more intense because you're getting at least 4 games out of that one. So I wouldn't be against covering that series too come playoff time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Habs could throw a wrinkle in that, but I mean, as of right now, you got Buffalo, who's 4 points up on Tampa. Tampa's got 2 games in hand. If they finish 1-2 either way and hold serve, round 2 will be Buffalo Tampa, and I think everyone will be signing up for that one. Now, Dave, great chat as always, pal. Thanks so much for doing this. Enjoy your time in the Big Apple.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, it should be an interesting game tonight with the Kings and Rangers. So we'll see.
Is Dennis with you?
No, he's back in LA. He had some stuff on the home front that derailed his plans for coming up here, but he'll be back on the road pretty soon.
I saw him in one of his famous "Where to Next" Instagram posts, so I wasn't sure. I guess he was coming back home for that one. Hey, pal, thanks so much for doing this. We'll catch up soon.
You got it, buddy. Take care.
There's Dave Pagnotta. You can follow him at The Fourth Period on X, and thefourthperiod.com is where you'll find all of their content for all things National Hockey League related. All right, we're going to get Connor in here. A little more Jets talk, some of the other big stories coming out of the weekend. First, though, a big thanks to our WST sponsors. Cleanline is your one-stop shop with over 40 years of experience for the best in Winnipeg residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical services. And much like the Captain Adam Lowry, they've got you covered 24/7 with emergency services. Remember the number, 204-500-2001 for Cleanline Plumbing, Heating, Electrical for all your needs, residential, commercial, and when you're in a jam. The gang at BP is ready to welcome Jet fans back. Head to your local BP Jets Pick a Player contest for all Winnipeg Jet games. And, of course, those ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and more. Staying at home, you can always get the great taste of BP by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. And got to shout out our friends at Royal. What a run they had with the Olympic Games. Now we look ahead to the Stanley Cup playoffs, of course, and baseball season. Tons of new Jays and MLB gear coming in by the day. And as everyone's getting ready to maybe get out of town in and around spring break, don't forget Royal's amazing snowboard department with the best in deals on boots, bindings, decks, you name it. They've got it with the experts to help you get the right fit before you hit the slopes. It's all waiting for you at Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Follow them on Instagram at the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's do a little weekend wrap. Connor Hrabchak of WST joins us now. What's going on? How was your weekend?
Great weekend, Huss. Busy. 2 games down at Canada Life Center. Post-game show yesterday, Sunday Live. Thank you to everyone who tuned into Sunday Live and the post-game reaction yesterday. But yeah, good weekend. Caught as much golf as I could have. Was wanting to watch the players. Sunday was tougher with Sunday Live and then the game. But yeah, good all around weekend covering hockey here in the city.
Yeah, we'll get to the players in a minute. A great Winnipeg Jets story involved in that one. But just when you think you can officially count them out, they go back-to-back with 2 games against the best team in the National Hockey League and a very hot St. Louis Blues team. What did you make of the back-to-back wins, matinee style on the weekend?
Yeah, I know you touched on this earlier on in the show, but they got great goaltending over the weekend. Like Hellebuyck was dialed in that Colorado game.
Battling so hard for every
puck.
Oh,
man. Yeah, he was like, you don't see Hellebuyck move very much. It's the big and boring thing. But when he's moving, he's battling through screens. Colorado loves those high screens, tips, deflections, all the things that beat him in the New York game. So great bounce back for Hellebuyck in the Colorado game. And then Comrie. He's been money in his last 5 starts. I posted his stats earlier today on Twitter. 5-0-0 record in his last 5 starts. He's got a .946 save percentage, a 139 goals against average, and has saved 5.47 goals above expected in those 5 starts. So he's been giving the Jets great goaltending in relief of Connor Hellebuyck. And the Jets deserve credit too. I mean, I know that it wasn't pretty. Both games weren't, but you had guys blocking shots late in games, and you had Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele being opportunistic with their chances. And this Nashville game tomorrow has, again, last week coming out of the New York game, it's like, Nashville next week, who cares? Now, this kind of has Anaheim game vibes for me, where it's like, okay, the Anaheim game, yeah, I know, right? The Anaheim game, they beat Tampa, and it was like, oh, interesting. Then there was the deadline, and then they beat Vancouver. And then going into that Anaheim game, there was a buildup. They just beat Tampa. They were rolling. They had won 3 straight. And it was like, here we go. If there's going to be a playoff push, this is the game. Then they lose. They lose to New York, and there's another letdown. But then they beat Colorado and beat St. Louis. You get some help over the weekend. You're only 5 points out still. Nashville is the team that is directly in front of you. This game, to me, has the same vibe. I hope we'll see if it goes the same way for this Winnipeg Jets squad. Hopefully they put up more than 13 shots on goal. But the vibes going into the game are the same for me, where this is a team that's right ahead of you in the playoff race. Scott O'Neill and all of the players have been talking for weeks about a playoff push. Time to show it.
Yeah, it's funny just looking at this playoff race for the wild card. I mean, Utah, I guess Utah's now lost 4 in a row. They cannot beat the Chicago Blackhawks. It is just hilarious. Like they've, I think, 3 or 4 times in the past kind of like 2-3 weeks. They've been on the wrong end, but like no one really wants it right now. I mean, the Kraken are 4-6 in their last 10, but that includes 2 wins in a row. You got the Sharks that are 5-3-2. They're hanging in there. They're just 1 point back with the game in hand. The Kings are win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1, 4-5-1 in their last 10. The Preds have lost 2 in a row, and they're 3-5-2. And then you look at the Jets, 6-2-2 in their last 10, and the 2 games they lost were, I would argue, just performances that weren't up to, you're not winning against anyone in those matchups. And even St. Louis had won 5 of 6 and are 7-2-1 right now. So, I think it's just prolonging the inevitable right now. You look at Money Puck, the 6%, it just speaks to these teams playing against each other, and teams will get points. But for the Jets, we said all along, 91, say 92 points. You want to get 92 points? They're on a pace for 82 right now. There's 16 games left. The only hope they have is to put together a couple 6-game winning streaks and basically, finish up going 13-3. And getting 10 games above 500 over a 16-game segment after not being able to do it through 66.
Totally, Huss. And it was kind of a brutal activity, or a brutal way to spend my Sunday morning. But coming out of that Colorado game, and with the Jets being X amount of points out of a playoff spot, you look back on the season at all of the terrible ways that they've blown points. And it's just all the OT losses. How about the Minnesota Wild's Dylan DeMello takes a penalty as Kyle Connor's shooting the puck into the empty net. They get scored on, and then they lose an OT. That's a point. The blown lead to the Leafs. Like, you just go back throughout the season, and if they had just closed out 3 or 4 of these miraculous blown games at any point in the season, they'd be right there. And right now, one of these bad teams are going to make the wild card too. Like you said, no one really wants it right now outside of the Winnipeg Jets. But you look at those 4 teams, you could argue, and it's a solid argument, that the Jets are playing the best hockey right now out of the Kraken, Sharks, Kings, Preds, and themselves. So it's going to be an interesting race. But if your team tank and if your team playoff push, I think both were right over the weekend, because the Jets won both games. So they're 5 points out. They just beat Colorado and St. Louis, and great. But if your team tank, did that win against St. Louis inspire anyone that they're going to like go on some heater. Like, I don't know. Comrie was awesome. They had 16 shots on goal. I wasn't walking out of that St. Louis game going, wow, this Jets team is an absolute wagon. Here comes the 8-game winning streak. So I don't know. I'm just scared, Huss, as we come down the stretch here and the Jets continue to pick up points and wins, that the Winnipeg Jets are on a quest to pick 12th in the upcoming NHL entry draft. But we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, the way I read it, I mean, unless they go on a big run, I mean, we've kind of seen that group of 6 teams, at the bottom. Vancouver, they're not going anywhere. They'll finish 32nd. Calgary's got the inside track on 31st. They're at 59. You got the Blackhawks at 61. And, heading into the weekend, the Jets were 2 back of St. Louis at 62 points. But you pull off 2 quick wins, and then all of a sudden now you're sniffing around, Nashville, LA, the Sharks, and of course the Kraken. I mean, from the other side of things, there's really just the Devils. I guess Florida and New Jersey right now, with the way that they've been going.
But Florida and Tampa are going to be tanking for pick condition purposes, right? Like they might go on a massive slide.
The funny thing about Toronto, and we were just talking to Dave, I cannot believe that pick was only top 5 protected.
Yeah.
Like Florida somehow managed to get a top 10 protected pick. And I'm sure they never thought that this clause would even be a possibility.
For sure, yeah.
But, like Dave said, just watch them finish 5th last and then have a team behind them jump up and bounce them down a spot and hand over the 6th pick. For the Leafs trading with the Bruins, it seems like it's Murphy's Law every single time they make a deal. And this is another chapter in all of that. I mean, you know what? If the Jets stay where they are in around 6th, you'll have 8, 9, 10% chance of jumping up into, one of those top 2 selections. And you just hope that you don't get past. I think sort of a top 7 pick is, kind of where there's that drop off right now. Mm-hmm. So, we'll be both looking up and down over the course of the next little bit. And of course, one more game at home against these Predators. You sort of laid that out. I mean, a team just ahead of them. They're certainly pressing right now, trying to get wins. And then you hit the road, Boston, Pittsburgh, and the Rangers over the course of the rest of the week. So, and that is one thing. I mean, this schedule is now we're really seeing these teams, and the Jets are a perfect example of this, being stressed big time. Scott Arniel mentioned afterwards that you're sort of wondering, what happened in the second half of that game. That team was running on fumes, and fortunately they got great goaltending from Eric Comrie to get the win that they were looking for.
For sure. And you look around the league, every single night you open up the NHL app and look at the slate, there's a ton of games happening. Everyone's playing a ton right now. You want to talk about the condensed schedule going into the break. It was condensed. Coming out of the break, it's been even more condensed league wide. And we're seeing it here in Winnipeg as they are playing every other day with some back-to-backs mixed in there. It's quite something. And you look at the Preds coming in tomorrow, and you mentioned, Huss, they've lost 2 straight. Those losses were to the Vancouver Canucks and the Edmonton Oilers. They'll play the Jets Tuesday, and then Thursday they take on the Kraken. And it's one of those games where someone has to win, right? Someone has to get 2 points, and that's kind of where we're at going down the stretch here. The Sharks will play the Kraken. Someone has to win those games. Maybe there'll even be a 3-point game. As we know, there have been so many of those this season, and both teams will get points. But it's going to be interesting to see if any of those teams can really separate themselves from the pack. And I'm talking about Seattle and San Jose, because Seattle, to me, all year has been kind of surprising that they're in and around the playoff line or even in the Pacific in the top 3 as mid as that division is. But San Jose is right there. They've been in it for a lot of the year, but seem to be sliding. And they've got this young team with the condensed schedule. How are they going to handle it? LA made the Panarin ad, but like you said, Huss, they're win one, lose one right now. The Jets are 6-2-2 in their last 10. So it's going to be an interesting race to the finish here. And as you mentioned, there's still a lot to watch for this Winnipeg Jets team. Even if they don't move from 6th, even if they go up and pick 12th, even if they drop down and pick 3rd, there's still a lot of young players contributing to this team right now. And it's a time of the season where you want to watch even if it's just for opening night next season.
Yeah, no, listen, I think there's still a lot of good that can come out of this. And, we spent a lot of time talking about Morgan Barron, maybe seeing a little bit more of him in an elevated role. He had a nice weekend, two assists yesterday in the game. And I'll tell you what, I think we're seeing some glimpses of Brad Lambert as well, playing with Barron. Real nice pass to Hayden Fleury to get him on the board for his first at the Jet yesterday. But now that we've seen Rasanen for a few games, I mean, what have your observations been on the player that came over in the Stan trade?
Yeah, there's been some ups and downs. I like the speed. I like the offensive creativity. There's been a number of times where he's on the wall and in a board battle and he has the puck and he's getting shoved off of it pretty easily. It doesn't look like it's a strenuous activity for the defenseman to get it off of him. So that's something that you want to see improve. But I've liked what he's brought to this team. And Huss, I was saying this Sunday morning, and if people tuned in, my apologies, I'm repeating myself here. But if Rasanen comes in and from the deadline to the end of the season just plays with Nyquist and Toews, I would be very much against that decision. I think this guy's a 23-year-old, has lit up the AHL, was the big piece in the trade coming back for Stanley and Shen. He's going to be a big part of your lineup on opening night next season, or at least that's the hope. I'd like to see him play with some guys where it's guaranteed that they're going to be here next year. Like Nyquist and Toews, you were asking Jeff earlier, will Toews be back? We're not sure. Nyquist, I think we can all be sure, won't be back with this
That's
squad.
A no.
That's a no. So, I'd like to see him play with a Perfetti. I'd like to see him get minutes with Velarde, even if it's not on the top line, or even on the top line with Connor and Scheifele. I'd like to see him play with some higher end skilled players to see if there's more potential there, because right now he's playing on a third line, Huss. That's how I'm listing it when I'm going to morning skates and going to practices. You look at the 5-on-5 time on ice, almost the fourth line some nights. And the Morgan Barron line, to pivot to Brad Lambert here, they've earned that ice. I'm totally on board with that. Morgan Barron played just over 16 minutes in that Blues game, 2 assists, a couple block shots, 1 more faceoffs than he lost. He's making a big impact on the game, so he deserves that ice time. But Rasanen being relegated to like a fourth line role and being benched late in games to protect leads and stuff, like I'd like to see him play a little bit more of a prominent offensive role down the stretch here, especially if the Jets tail off and the playoff dream kind of dies down.
Co-sign on that. Remis, I'm just looking at this playoff race and, the wild card spots and there's one number that just, I can't wrap my head around it. You know that the LA Kings have only 17 regulation wins this season, ahead of only the Vancouver Canucks.
What?
And they have, 17 regulation wins. They are like the Rangers are last in the Eastern Conference. They've got 19. The Blackhawks have 18, and there are the Kings. They have 15 overtime points and 10 wins. Like, they've gone to overtime 25 times this year. Or 10 and 15 and just kind of hanging on precariously. But 17 regulation wins in 66 games, and yet they are just 2 points back of the Seattle Kraken for a playoff spot.
Yeah, minus 24 goal differential. And I think this is why you have people saying that there's a problem with the way the standings are done. It's wild that, a 3-on-3 or a shootout win is worth the same as a regulation win. And you have that and, the way the playoffs are done. I think it's a problem. Unfortunately, the GMs who are meeting this week in Florida don't see it that way. You do want to reward the best teams, but LA, I guess, good for them for getting to overtime and coming up with wins in a skills competition. I mean, that's what the league incentivizes. That's what they reward. So good for them. I am surprised to see that, although, how great is their season going? They did fire their head coach after the Olympic break, but that is kind of shocking there, Huss.
Hey, let's I want to hit a couple other topics with you guys. Connor, how have you enjoyed the WBC?
I've enjoyed it quite a bit outside of, Canada put up a good fight against the U.S. 5-3. Like, absolutely, man. And you covered the cool bet lines going into the game. Like, Canada was a massive underdog, and rightfully so. The U.S. is
covered.
Loaded. They covered.
Thank you.
Good teams win, great teams cover,
Yes.
Huss. They put up a good fight though. I was pleased leaving that performance, even though they ended up losing. And then the Dominican Republic team, I know they got eliminated last night, but every time they hit a monster, moonshot homer, the entire dugout clears and the bat goes 100 feet in the air and they're celebrating like they just won the World Series. I love it. Like the electricity, the atmosphere and the crowds are awesome. That Venezuela-Japan game was awesome as well. Venezuela and Japan both celebrating homers like they're playing in the World Series. Ohtani going deep, like this is fun, man. We just got international best on best hockey, and I know the WBC has had this many years, and they've had some great moments. The last time this thing happened, Japan, US, Ohtani versus Trout striking out in the night. Like there are great moments in this tournament. I've really enjoyed watching it, and it's making me more excited for the upcoming MLB season. And look, I know maybe it's still too soon to talk about the Jays, but I'm pumped to watch the Jays, and watching this WBC has me more excited for the upcoming baseball season. It's been electric.
Yeah, it didn't make me feel any better seeing Yamamoto look like a mere mortal in the WBC.
Of course.
I mean, just everything. At some point, we'll get into the next season and Game 7 and the playoffs. Will kind of be in the rear view, but it's still. I mean, you can't help but think of anything else when you see that guy out there. Remo, kind of a wild, and we'll get to the line in this when we get to the cool bet lines in a minute. But with Japan out, kind of seemed like last night was our one chance to maybe get the U.S. out of the tournament against the Dominican Republic. They'll be a heavy favorite against whether it's Italy or Venezuela that comes out of tonight's game.
Yeah, this U.S. squad, very, very strong in their pitching. I mean, the arms they're bringing out of the bullpen, tough for anyone to match that. I think what David Bednar is a closer, what he's pitching like 6th inning, is right. They're lining up again, top to bottom, very strong. But yeah, tonight Venezuela, Italy, and Italy is full of what Americans with Italian heritage. They got Aaron Nola pitching for them tonight, so I'm looking forward to this game. And I thought we'd get a USA Japan final if you just think USA wins, but no, Venezuela upset them, and Venezuela against Italy tonight. So I think a lot of eyeballs on this World Baseball Classic. It's growing every year. You saw the fan support yesterday at that game with Dominican Republic and USA. It was incredible. And it does get me hyped that we're going to have the NHL version, and also makes you think, man, did they miss out for so long without best on best? All the best players, and you hear guys like Julio Rodriguez of the Mariners say, WBC more important than a World Series. These guys love playing for their country. They bring it, and it's been very exciting. That was a good one. Friday, as you mentioned, Canada against U.S. Canada, it was there, falling just short, and same thing with Dominican. I mean, they had chances to take the lead with runners in scoring position, couldn't take advantage, and so now we gear up for the final, but semifinal of Game 2, and yeah, the baseball season. We're like 9 days away from opening day. Just had my first fantasy draft yesterday.
9 days away.
I'm gearing up here.
Good. Well, maybe we can get some of this snow melting, get the Jays back on, and we'll be back at the ballpark watching the Fish before we know it. You mentioned the World Cup of Hockey. In the 28 season, Canada is going to, or the NHL is going to break for 17 days to pull this tournament off. And I did see Mark DeRosa, who the USA manager of the WBC, was on with Pat McAfee earlier today. And said that this tournament should move to the middle of the season. I think it would be phenomenal the All-Star game in baseball is great, but who wouldn't rather have this with everyone in shape, playing well in the middle of the season? I mean, sign me up for that.
Agreed.
Hey, folks, and I'm going to throw this article in the chat right now. You got to read this. Players' Championship yesterday. Cam Young comes back. Oh, I see. Royal Sports Greg. Rob Manfred said that guaranteed that Major League Baseball players will play in the 2028 Summer Olympics in LA. That will be phenomenal. But listen, Cam Young comes back. Epic choke by Ludwig Oberg. I'm a big Ludwig guy. That one is going to sting for a while. I'm going to leave some scar tissue. It was right there for the taking. he wasn't able to do that. Matty Fitz bogeys 18, and it was Cam Young on the back of beautiful birdie on 17 on the famed Island Green to give him the Players' Championship win. Kind of stunning for a guy that's been so competitive. It was only his second win on tour. Won the Wyndham Championship, I believe, and now he's the Players' Champion, which I believe comes with the biggest check in golf. But I just threw a link into the chat, folks. And if you're listening on the podcast, John McCarthy of the Sun did this article on the weekend. But it was on the young Canadian Sudarsan Velar Raju, who has really sort of burst onto the scene this year. First timer on the PGA Tour, didn't have the full status. So he's obviously not in the events that are the elevated events, but had been playing a couple of the opposite ones, did well in Puerto Rico, and earned himself a chance to get to the Players' Championship. Well, he made the cut and then had the weekend of his life, going 66-68 to finish, I believe, in a tie for fifth. Now, what's wild about this guy is that he is, I believe, 24 years old, moved from India to Winnipeg at age 4, I think around 6, started out smacking balls at the Golf Dome. From the Golf Dome to TPC Sawgrass. But what's even crazier, guys, he has never taken a golf lesson, does not have a coach, and taught himself to play through watching YouTube videos. And yet here he is at 24, turned pro at 19, and basically I think became like a club pro. Got a chance to go to the Corn Ferry Tour, made the most of it, and now a very, very bright future. But very interesting Winnipeg connection, Connor, on a guy that started off like many kids in Winnipeg, just whacking balls at the Dome.
Yeah. So, Huss, does this mean if I just start watching a lot of YouTube right now and then go to the Golf Dome for the next couple months, I too can shoot 66 at TPC Sawgrass? That's an
$1 million check.
Yeah, that's not bad, right? No, what an incredible story. I mean, to be self-taught in a sport as complex and as difficult as golf, we all know when we go to the golf course, you can watch as many YouTube videos, try as many different grips as you want on your shot, try all of these tips and tricks. I'm still shanking my shot a million yards to the right. But this guy came to Winnipeg at the Golf Dome. There was even the blurb there talking about the rental sets at the Golf Dome and how, it's just like super heavy clubs and not top of the line stuff and YouTube videos and stuff. So to make yourself a PGA Tour player in general, let alone make the cut and finish tied for fifth off of YouTube videos and mashing balls at the Golf Dome is such an incredible, incredible story, and was easily my favorite story to monitor over the weekend with the Players' Championship as I learned about it, because I didn't know about this story. I don't know if you did or Remo going into the Players' Championship, but yeah, what an incredible story. And I wish I could have that as good of luck in terms of teaching myself on YouTube on how to be a good golfer. That would be nice.
Who I found out about him? Andrew Aguano, a good friend of ours with CoolBet, that works with Pat and Jake. Spent a couple years grinding it out on some of the lower tours, trying to make it. He's a certified PGA professional. So they've got tournaments like within the Ontario group of all the guys that are PGA professionals. And Sudarsan had been, part of those even, I think, as recently as the year before last. So anyways, I think there'll be a lot of people that'll be paying more attention to him. Now, 2 top 20 finishes on the tour. And this is a big one. I believe his check was for $954,000 or $925. There it is. As Bob Weeks said, his career earnings prior to this was $358,940. So many different paths to get to the pinnacle of your sport. This is one of the most wild routes that started off at the Golf Dome in Winnipeg and took him to TPC Sawgrass on the weekend. That was a good one. All right, you guys, stick around. Let's go through the Coolbet lines in just a moment. But do want to thank our friends and remind you about the HSC Fund a Need campaign. And shout out to our pal Pitt and the gang at Aikens Lake. I do want to thank our friends at the HSC Foundation and remind you all that right now the Fund a Need campaign is well underway. This is so important to help with the spinal surgery department. There's obviously a big wait. They're looking to raise $425,000, and every one of your donations will be matched. So it will be doubled. Of course, you'll get a tax receipt for it. They're looking to get some new surgical equipment that will allow 200 more spine surgeries and 400 more joint replacement surgeries a year. So if you go to Health Sciences Center Foundation, to the Fund a Need campaign, and help us raise $425,000, and everything is matched by the Manitoba Spine Program. And hey, making our finishing touches with our winner to get out to Aikens Lake this year. Don't forget, folks, if you're looking for a world-class fly-in fishing experience here in the province, where you can be on the water in less than a couple hours from the city of Winnipeg, Aikens Lake is the spot. World-class fishing and even more world-class hospitality from the Terren family and the Aikens team. Booking now throughout the summer, over 75% full. So check it out now at aikenslake.com and get your bookings. And if you are looking for a great summer job for you students out there, go to aikenslake.com and inquire as well about opportunities for the upcoming year. All right, let's get over to the Coolbet lines. Don't forget, gang, Wednesday, we're back at it with another WST poker night over at Coolbet. We'll have details on our socials and in the newsletter. We'll fire it out, but 8 p.m., if you get onto the Coolbet poker app, just search WST. You'll be able to join us, and we'll have a $100 bounty on my head, Remis's head, Jeff Hamilton's head as well. Should be a real fun night. Now that we're back into a monthly schedule, we'll do one coming up in April as well. Speaking of Coolbet, let's look at the games tonight. Calgary at Detroit. Connor, it's just funny when I look at these games. Like, I'm less looking at Seattle and the teams ahead of us than cheering for teams like Calgary and Chicago, the Rangers, the Blues to win games. This is a big one, though, for Detroit, in that the Wings have been in a playoff spot pretty much all year. And now they find themselves tied for that final wild card spot with the Boston Bruins. And don't look now, but our guy Bones has the Blue Jackets just one back of the wild card with a game in hand. So this is one you'd have to think the Wings have to have after. And it's amazing. You lose 3 in a row, you have one bad week, and all of a sudden you're on the verge of being on the outside looking in.
For sure. And you look at the Red Wings too, like their season has kind of been defined by goaltending, maybe not as much as a team like Ottawa in the bad way of goaltending, where Ottawa's just had so many goaltending struggles. But Detroit, like John Gibson went on an absolute tear for about a month and a half, 2 months, and they made so much ground in the standings at that time. They were near the top of the East, let alone their division. And now their goaltending has come down to earth a little bit. Their scoring has dried up a little bit. Everything's kind of going wrong at the same time, and they're starting to slide. And you see a team like Ottawa that's starting to get some goaltending. You see a team like Columbus that's getting the coaching bump. These teams are hot on their tails. So the Eastern Conference wildcard race was one that we maybe didn't think was going to be interesting because teams were pulling away. But as these two teams, Columbus and Ottawa mainly, continue to go on tears to make this interesting, the teams that are in the wildcard spot or near the bottom, they need to keep getting points because those teams don't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. And Detroit is absolutely one of those teams. And a home game against the Calgary Flames, that's one that if you're tight in a wildcard race, you got to get 2 points.
You have to have it. Detroit's minus 182 on the money line. The Bruins are a slight home or road dog tonight, plus 106. The New Jersey Devils, who are kind of into next yearville, they're at minus 125. We talked to Pagnotta earlier. Huge game for the Kings. The return of Panarin. They're in New York to take on the Rangers. The Kings minus 115, slight favorites, very close to a pick'em. The Dallas Stars, who may never lose again, even without Rupi Hintz and Mikko Rantanen, they're at home to the Utah Mammoth. At plus 138 is the Mammoth road number. Dallas minus 164. And then the Avalanche coming off their loss to the Jets here in the Peg. They're in the late game. Pittsburgh and Colorado. Is that Pittsburgh-Colorado game the Amazon game today?
There's two. It's a prime doubleheader. So the first game, I believe, is Flames-Wings, and then the second one is Penguins-Avs. So I can't remember if or ever Prime has done a doubleheader. I don't know if Remo would know that, but usually it's just the one group that they go do their one like prime time game. I don't remember the last time or if they've ever done a doubleheader.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. That's definitely interesting. One thing about Detroit, Dylan Larkin, number one center, he's out with injury, and that's a huge blow for them on offense. But I'm not sure about prime doubleheader. That's a good one, Connor. I'll have to look into that.
They're going to have to find a way. WBC tonight, Italy plus 160, Venezuela minus 196. The winner will take on the United States tomorrow in the final. We also have TGL tonight. I'm a big TGL guy. We're in the playoffs. Los Angeles GC versus the Atlanta Drive. LA minus 135 favorite, Atlanta plus 110. And then later on tonight, Boston Common versus Tigers team, Jupiter Lynx. Boston, the big favorite, at minus 161. I'm actually going to play the two favorites in this one, plus 182 if you parlay them together. We got Women's World Curling up, Major League Baseball spring training. The odds are out for the Valspar. We'll get to that with some picks on Wednesday, but Xander Schauffele is the favorite at 10-1. Schauffele was really good at the Players' best performance of the season. Matty Fitz 14-1, Vic Hovland 16, Akshay Bhatia 18, and then Jacob Bridgman with another strong performance at the Players. He is 20-1. If you haven't already, use the promo code WST on your first deposit at CoolBet for a 100% bonus up to $200. And don't forget to join us Wednesday night, 8 p.m. for another edition of WST Poker over at CoolBet. Connor, great stuff. Thanks for jumping on today. And we'll look forward to getting the boys together for a little roadie out to Gimli on Thursday to see our friends at Chud's Power Sports. And, of course, one more game to finish up this 8-game homestand tomorrow against the Nashville Predators. And we'll look forward to your game preview on our social channels and maybe a pop-by after the morning skate tomorrow on the show.
Sounds great, Huss. Yeah, game day reports every game day on the WST socials. Follow us, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of that great stuff. Jets wrap up an 8-game homestand and then hit the road. Looking forward to Gimli on Thursday, Huss. Also looking forward to March Madness this weekend, week/weekend.
The brackets are out. Now is the time where I familiarize myself with every team. I know Florida was good, Duke's good, Michigan's good.
Those are 3 of the 1 seeds. There you go. Yeah, I looked at the bracket for the first time last night. I haven't watched or paid attention to college basketball for the first time last night, but that's the beauty of it, right? You get so confident that this one team is going to beat this other team based off of whatever information, like mascots, picking by mascots. But no, super excited for March Madness, excited for Gimli this weekend for the wrap of the Jets homestand.
Remo, speaking of that, is our bracket we did a bracket like in the first year, and it just seems to be there every year. Are we back with the WST bracket?
It does seem to auto renew. Let me confirm that. Men's Tournament Challenge. My brackets. Let me see. Groups. I'll figure it out. I know that I have to click a button and it renews. But
excellent. If you've been in it before, let us know. If not, we'll throw up a link on our socials and we'll do it as well on the show tomorrow. Fun Monday show, fellas. Connor, we'll look forward to catching up with you post morning skate tomorrow. And Remo will be back at it tomorrow, getting ready for the Jets Preds, as well as the WBC final after the semi tonight.
Yes. Finally getting around to fold my laundry. It's never ending. Has be watching the games tonight, WBC, and maybe getting ready for my fantasy baseball. Yes, we do have a group. Just search for Winnipeg Sports Talk. It is there. It
automatically the ESPN bracket challenge.
Yeah, it automatically makes it. I think I can throw a link in here. I got to join it myself, but there's already 2 people in it. So shout out to Faves and Hey Kibo.
Ready to go right out of the gate. We'll try and work on a nice prize or something for our winner. From some of our WST sponsors. Speaking of sponsors, thanks to all of them for making the show possible each and every day, and all of you for hanging out with us, both on YouTube and on podcast. We are back tomorrow with a game day edition of WST beginning at 1 p.m. live on YouTube. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow, folks. Have a great Monday night, and we'll catch you tomorrow right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.